Good evening. Welcome to Love Talk. I'm Gregory Morgan. The name of the show is Love Talk. So, what works in your life and how can you? It's always going to be in one of two areas: how you're perceiving your life, your issues, your problems, the things that have you stuck, the things that keep you from expanding and being joyful, being satisfied and fulfilled in your life, the things that may hinder you or keep you or hold you back from accomplishing anything that you would want to accomplish in your life and making the contribution that you are here to make. Those things always exist in one of two domains: the domain of your perception, in other words, how you are viewing the world, and that includes your view of yourself. It's kind of hard to see yourself sometimes when the world is constantly calling you to look outward, to find your values and find your fulfillment, to find your satisfaction, to find out who you are by looking out and participating in the world outside of oneself, which is understandable from a survival viewpoint. However, that type of view, that viewpoint, will never bring you happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, and self-realization. You'll never realize, in other words, who you are. Self-realization simply means where you realize, where you make real in the world the true self. Self-realization means that who you are is manifested fully in the world. That means that you live and breathe and express your words, your actions, and your environment, those around you, and what is reflected back to you is a true reflection of your true self or your higher self. That's what self-realization means: to make real in the world who you truly are. In other words, having integrity, to be integrated with one's self, is to live by your own truest values, your own highest values, and hopefully your highest values, your truest values. Isn't it true that we have some values that maybe aren't so high, some values that aren't a reflection of our higher self? Sometimes we have values that are a reflection of a lower self. We can address that, but right now I'm discussing that the things that hold you back usually arrive in two domains. One is the way you're seeing the world, whether you're seeing the world truly or accurately. And the other one has to do with how you are proceeding in the world. In other words, your actions, the things that you do, say. And speaking is also doing, yes? Speaking is an action that you take that has a manifestation in the world. It makes a noise, it has meaning, it impacts others. So your speaking is also an action. What you're doing or what you're seeing or perceiving. So I call it procedure or perception because it helps me remember it. So how you're seeing the world is often inaccurate or not in conjunction with a reality that we can actually rely on. And I'm going to talk about in this show different types of reality, because guess what? You and I don't actually know what reality is. We don't actually know what reality is. We live in a world in which we assume certain realities. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about it from a spiritual point of view and from a scientific point of view and from an ontological point of view. Ontology means the art and science of beingness. We're going to talk about it from the point of view of beingness, not just intellectual understanding, you see. Because our perception of what is real and is inaccurate, or is then how we proceed is also inaccurate. And by inaccurate, I mean it has no integrity. It is ineffective. Your procedure, if you're perceiving the world wrongly, and then you proceed to take action based on an erroneous or a mistaken perception or view of the world, then obviously your actions will not be satisfying or fulfilling. It's like being in one of those funhouse mirror places where you can't tell what's a mirror and what's a door, and so you can't get out of the place because you keep bumping into a mirror or a piece of glass. You can't, that's a fun way of confusing your perceptions so that you can't really so they can have fun with it. But it's a maze of mirrors, if you've never been in one, in which, you know, you find yourself in this room. It's full of mirrors and doors and glass walls, and so you have a hard time finding your way out because you can't tell what's solid and what's not. It's a little bit like being in there when you don't know how to proceed accurately, you see. I want to talk about how our perceptions can be confused sometimes, how we see everything from how we see, beginning with, how do we see ourselves? In other words, do you have an accurate perception of yourself? Do you know who you are? You know, to know one's self is to have access to one's personal power. To know oneself is to know what it is that you truly value and to proceed accordingly. In other words, to take actions based on your true values, and very often the values that we accept into our lives, for the most part, I'm not going to just say very often, almost universally, okay, values that people are living by are not even their own. I assert, meaning I'm going to postulate an idea, and then I'm willing to back that idea up with evidence. Okay? When I say I assert something, that's what I mean by it. I'm willing to back it up, or I'm able to back it up with evidence for what it is that I'm asserting. So I assert that you and I, everyone, receives information as a child, as an infant, that is an interpretation given to us by the people around us. When you're a child, you have this very, very large brain and this incredible capacity to absorb so much data, so many things, that you're absorbing data without having any words to put to it. You don't have language yet. You don't have words which structures your thoughts, organizes them. All you have is the feelings and the images and an interpretation that is based on a perception that is very limited. Okay, you have a limited perception. Why? Because, well, you're kept with your parents for the most part. You're kept isolated from other, from a lot of things. You're kept isolated from a lot of things that you're not ready to perceive or interpret, and so you're kept in a protected environment. And so how you learn to walk, how you learn to talk, how you learn to think is formulated by the conditioning that you receive in your immediate environment by the caretakers or the caregivers that are surrounding you. So your interpretation of what a man is, what a woman is, you see, when you're a child, there's no man and woman. There's just the big hairy one and the soft one that smells good or whatever, right? There's the, there's the one that has the deep voice, and then there's another one that has a softer voice, and so forth. It's not a man or a woman to you because you don't even have that concept or those words, all right? But you formulate a relationship with those qualities of masculine and feminine. You either feel safe around them, or you feel happy around them, or you feel afraid around them, based on facial gestures, the sounds that they make, the smells that they have, how it feels when they touch you with their hands, or they pick you up. All of those things are formulated at a very, very, very early age before you can even actually do what we call thinking, that is, formulate thoughts. Formulation of thoughts and abstract thinking begins later on, and it is accompanied by the ability to interpret words and speak words. Language and abstract thinking, or the ability to make plans, the ability to think in terms of past, present, and future. You see, at that age, everything's just the present. There's only right now. There's just right now, right now, right now, right now. It's always right now when you're an infant. And then later you begin to perceive things like past, present, and future, and those interpretations come to you through language as interpreted by your immediate environment. That's what I wanted to establish here, so that the way you perceive reality, and therefore the way that you respond to reality based on those perceptions, has been inherited. They are not your own. You didn't make up those interpretations. You didn't invent those words. You didn't come to your own conclusions based on your own independent experience. You had experiences that were given to you. You were told where to sit and what to eat and how to act and what to believe and what was good and what was bad. You never even had a chance to make up your own thinking because you were told how to think and how to feel and how to respond from the get-go, from the very beginning. That's my point. So given that, you now, as an adult, and I assume if you're watching this show, you're an adult, or if you're a teenager or a young person, because I know that there's a lot of young people who have told me, wow, I've been watching your show since, I was a kid. This show has been on the air, not necessarily only on this station, but I've been on the air for about 15 years now, speaking to the Iranian community and also doing seminars and workshops and radio shows around the world. So I meet young people now who have said, yeah, I've been watching you since I was a kid. I'm always very flattered by that they would be that interested in the subjects that I talk about, because I'm talking about becoming a real human being. And for most people, they're not really interested in that. They're interested in being a fake human being. They're interested in presenting a version of themselves that they hope or they interpret others will like, love, cherish, want to protect, be with. They want to be popular or well thought of. So human beings from a very, very early age master the art of deception. How many 2-year-olds, if you said, did you break that lamp, would say, yeah, Mom, I broke the lamp? No, I didn't break it, right? Did you take those cookies? No, I didn't take the cookies, right? Most kids, even as soon as they can talk, start lying. It's very rare that they would tell the truth if there was a perceived threat, okay? In order to survive, human beings have mastered the art of deception. And if you think about it, I think it's more so for women than for men, simply because that's how the genders have been skewed, but most women do not have the same, their accurate hair color. Other things on their body may not be exactly how they're perceived to be. Even wearing high heels is making one appear to be taller than the other, taller than they actually are, or thinner than they are, longer eyelashes than they have, or redder lips than you might have. So these are all the art of perception. They're all addressing the art of deception so as to be perceived, to be seen as something other than you actually are. I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm not passing a judgment on it or saying unfairly that this is there's anything wrong with that. I'm simply pointing out the fact that we have all accepted this art of deception as being a part of our everyday life. And in fact, it could be said, I don't know, if you were a woman and you went out with no makeup and you did nothing to your hair and you just went barefooted or wore flat shoes, you may be perceived in your professional milieu, in your professional environment, as being somebody who didn't take care of themselves, who didn't present themselves professionally, or whatever, you see. So the same is true for men, but to a lesser extent. Men are, can have whiskers or no whiskers these days. I mean, but there was a time where if you had whiskers, you were perceived as being, improper in some way. And then there are other places in the world today that if you don't have whiskers, you're out of line, right? I think I've made my point. That the art of deception, the art of deceiving others in order to be perceived, in order to be seen in a higher light, to be more socially acceptable, to fit in with your clan or your tribe or your culture, so as to be what? To be more successful, to have a better chance of survival. And why would you want to survive? Well, in order to have a better life, in order to be, let's say, happier, in order to be more fulfilled? Is it in order to make a greater contribution to mankind? Is it in order to develop oneself so that you can your deepest desires, your greatest genius and talents will come forth and make humanity a better, make a gift to humanity? Is it for that? No, it's not. For most people, it's just not. It's just surviving to survive. It's just getting by to get by. To what? To make some more money? So that what? You already overeat. You already eat too much and drink too much, and so what do you want to do with this? My point is, people are either surviving or they're indulging in the abundance of having, more than enough, but are they happy? Are they fulfilled? Do their lives make one bit of difference? And so that's really what I want to address here in Love Talk. I know this from my own, living my own life. This is not something I've looked up in books or read about. And even if I have read about it, this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my own personal experience of living in life and seeing that I myself have been extremely successful and unsatisfied at different times in my life. I myself have given all that I've got, given my whole heart and soul to make a difference with other people, and have succeeded in making a difference with other people, and maybe not been financially successful or successful in some other socially acceptable way. So I've had both ends of that spectrum. You see, so I know from experience that, and from dealing with thousands of people, that people can be we have clients that are extremely wealthy and extremely successful and extremely unhappy and unfulfilled. It would break your heart what some people are dealing with. And yet they've got all the success and the money and the acknowledgement in the world, and it's unfulfilling. So I have a phone call coming in. I'm going to go ahead and answer that before we go. Hello, this is Gregory, and you're live on the air.
Hello, Mr. Gregory.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. So what my question is, if you believe in destiny, how do you define it in psychological way, in your own way?
Well, first of all, I'm not a psychologist, and I don't define things only psychologically. I think that psychology is a small part of who you are as a human being, a very small part. People have made a huge focus on the psychological aspect of humanity, but you are a physical, spiritual, emotional, mental occurrence that's happening in a physical format, and there is a psychological element to that. In other words, what I think of as psychology is the workings of the mind. But from a spiritual point of view, there's no evidence at all that there's such a thing called a mind. Okay? That's an invented concept, you see. So to have to interpret everything as a manifestation of a psychological event would be to take all of the whole universe of data and information and knowable information and narrow it down to one specific. That's like if you interpreted everything in terms of quantum physics, which some people do, right? Or you could interpret everything in terms of physicality. And no, there's no such thing as anything but what's physical. There's people who do that. They think that the entire universe is nothing but a bunch of physical stuff, and that we're all just a biochemical, mechanical reaction to physical occurrences, and that there's no psychological or emotional content whatsoever. It's all made up, and it's all biochemical, right? So you're asking me a question about how do I interpret something psychologically as something that has nothing to do with psychology is destiny. And here's here's the short version of my answer to it. Destiny is something that you create, and you create it how? By the actions that you take. What gives you your actions? What gives you your actions, and therefore the results that you produce in the world? Will you agree with me that the only thing that ever produces any results in the world is the action you take?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's step back into that's outside in the world, right? The only way I can create an action is in the world. There's no action inside me. If we cut me open, there's no actions in here, right? The only action I can take is out in the world. So now let's go inside, okay?
Yeah.
What had me act?
We call it what you reap, what we sow.
Okay, that's an interpretation of something as well. What we sow. But I agree with you. If I don't do anything in the world and I just sit there and I could be the most wonderful person in the world, or I could be the most awful person in the world. It wouldn't make any difference because I don't do anything. You see?
Right.
So all that matters in the world is what I do. What and speaking is doing. I put that in the world of actions. Right now I'm speaking. I'm just sitting in a chair, but I'm speaking, and so it's an action that I'm creating in the world, you see. I include language in actions because why? Because they're out in the world, right? But they come from the inside. So let's take a look inside for a second. If the actions you take in the world create the future that you're going to have, right? Right now, you and I are living in a future that we created through our actions in the past.
That's right.
I didn't accidentally suddenly arrive in this chair, right? That was by my intention, and my purposeful actions brought me here. Now, other things happen, circumstances and things like that, but how I dealt with those circumstances ended up, this is it, this is how that ended up. I'm sitting in a chair talking to you now. So what gave those actions? Let's look back in the inside now. Did survival give you those actions? In other words, I'm just trying to stay alive, right? Or did something else give you those actions? Did something that you created, something that you valued, something that you believed in, something that you desired, and wanted to make happen, is that what gave you those actions? You see, if I have my hand on a hot stove and I move it away, that's just a survival thing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means I try to stay alive, right?
Right.
Right. It's just automatic. It doesn't take any creativity to do that. Any animal will do that, right? So it doesn't take anything for me to survive other than to have a functioning automatic nervous system, right?
Yes.
I blink when something comes at my eye. I duck if something flies at my head. Those are all automatic. What gives you your destiny is the actions you take in the world. The actions that you take in the world come from what you intend to manifest. In other words, they come from someplace. All of your interior motivations are going to be based on one of two things: survival or your created commitments. There's something I call your default commitments. Your default commitment is to stay alive, to keep breathing oxygen in and out, to keep your heart pumping, to keep your body at a certain temperature, and to keep nutrients flowing through your body. That's basically a biochemical reaction designed to keep you alive. Okay? That's all. That has nothing, zero to do with your destiny. That has to do with your fate. Fate is what you run into if you don't create your destiny. I'm going to say it again. Fate is what you're left with. It's what you run into. It's it's the default. It's the booby prize. All you got to do to show it, to have your fate, is to get born and stay alive. You'll have that will be your fate. Whatever happens, that's your fate. That's how I see the difference between fate and destiny. Destiny is something that is inborn in you like a vision, something that has a piece of genius, a piece of talent, a piece of all of the greatness of humanity that I call destiny, is what you create that has value, that causes value to be out into the world through your actions, your words, the deeds, your intentions. In other words, you cause your destiny. It's not given to you. Your destiny is not given to you, okay? You could be freaking Mozart. If you don't practice and play the piano, nobody's going to care that you're born with an innate ability to design concerts. If you don't go do it, nothing's going to happen. You just sweep the floor like everybody else, okay? You could be Einstein, if you don't do something about that, if you don't go to school, if you don't study, if you don't practice the things that you know and you see, if you don't open your mouth and speak and draw diagrams and do things like that and learn to master your destiny, then who cares if you're Einstein and you're super smart? Nobody cares. Nobody will care. Okay? You could be a great talent of any kind. Each human being has a piece of the genius of all of humanity. You, whoever you are, whoever asked this question, you have a piece of the genius of humanity within you. Now, what are you going to do about it? That's my question. If you want to know what is your destiny, follow that piece of genius, that thing that is that divine spark that is within you. Listen to it, tune it up, turn up the volume, practice it, master it. That's what mastering your destiny means. It means taking whatever talents have been born into you, because I say that those talents, that genius, those spark of brilliance, you could say it's a gift of God. That presupposes that there's a God someplace and that he gave you something. He or she or it gave you something, and that's fine. That's a fine interpretation as long as it supports you and doesn't limit you. Or you could say that all of the universe came together into a divine spark that's manifested uniquely. There's only one of them called you, whatever you call yourself, your name, okay? There's only one of them that's called me, all right? I'm a unique manifestation of all of the possibilities that could have been. This particular one showed up over here, just like that particular one that they call you showed up over there. There's not another one like it anywhere. And the question is, what will you do about it? If all you're doing is surviving, and there's certain things that you have to do, right? But that's part of it, Of course you have to survive. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to have sex, you have to have a place to live, you have to have some food and water and clothing and so forth. You got to get that stuff somehow. But if that's the main focus of your life, is to get more and more of that stuff, the reason people get more and 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 then they're never happy is because they think that that's what their life is about, when it never was. If, on the other hand, since we're talking about destiny, you have a vision for what's possible in the world, and you think maybe, just maybe, I can make a difference in that. Better yet, I am going to make a difference in that. I'm going to go be whatever it is, the best musician in the world, or the best business person in the world, or the best father or mother in the world. It doesn't have to be a grandiose vision. That's just some kind of egotism anyhow. It doesn't have to be super grand. You don't have to be rich and famous to have an awesome destiny. I know people in my life who nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows how brilliant they are and how great they are, and that suits them just fine. They're happy about that. They've made the difference that they've made in the world, and they live a quiet life, and they've touched thousands and millions of people's lives, and nobody even knows their name, and they're good with that. They know. And so you don't have to be, publicly acknowledged in order to have made a difference in the world and to fulfill your destiny. Now, fulfilling your destiny is different than mastering your destiny. What about that? You can fulfill your destiny and go, okay, I'm done. And people do that. People do that. I believe certain famous people who have died young, rock stars or presidents or people who have made a huge difference in the world, they get done and then they leave. Now, that's my personal interpretation of events that I've lived through in my life and seen happen. You can interpret it like, oh, the poor thing, they died so young and before they could, be everything they could be. How do you know? Maybe they were done being everything that they could be, and they were done with this life in this world. How do you know, right? So I don't say that my interpretation is the right one. It's just my interpretation. But I've seen people, and I've known people who've made a huge difference in the world, and then, I don't know, they get sick and die, they have an accident, they just leave. They leave this world. They're done. They did what they came here to do, okay? Now, fulfilling your destiny is different than mastering your destiny. Mastering your destiny has to do with not only did you fulfill what you came here to do. To me, a master is not measured by the level of ability or talent that someone demonstrates. No, the measure of a master is how many masters are there around them that have come into the world as a result of them. How many people have fulfilled their destiny as a result of this person? To me, that's what a master is. A master causes other people to fulfill whatever it is that they're going to fulfill. And a master, he or she, is not attached to the acknowledgement, is not attached to their students even knowing or acknowledging them. A master is not attached, period. A master is somebody who causes and makes a difference in the world. Their destiny is manifest through and by others becoming all that they were meant to be. In the martial arts world, a black belt only means a true beginner. That's all it means. It just means somebody who's mastered, who can reliably perform all of the techniques required to be a true practitioner or a true beginner. In other words, they're sort of not trying to learn the techniques. They learned them, but they have not expanded into the art form itself. You know, every art form has two parts, theory and practice. You know, that's why they call a doctor's practice, they say it's a medical practice. They're practicing on you. But the same is true for a martial artist. They learn the theory, they learn the movements, and then they practice for the rest of their life. After second degree or third degree black belt in most arts, the awarding of higher ranks is not based on one's ability, and it's not based on one, you know, how fast can you draw the sword, or how many guys can you take out in a combat, or any of that stuff. It's not based on that anymore, because that's the lower rank. Anybody on fourth degree or above is considered a master in the martial arts. A martial arts mastery is based on how many other people have gotten black belts as a result of your teaching. How many black belts are there that have attained a high degree of mastery as a result of this person's teachings and who they're being in the world. And then the other masters come to you and say, here, we want to give you this honor, this degree. We think you're one of us, based on what we see from your students, based on the students, not on you, right? So I'm saying all this because the gentleman asked me about destiny. What on earth has that got to do with psychology? Nothing. Very, very little. Now, the part that has to do with psychology is if you think you're unworthy, if you think that, you know, if you're attached to being a victim, if you had bad experiences in your life and now you're using those bad experiences as an excuse for not manifesting your destiny. Oh, I can't do this because, you know, 40 years ago that happened to me. That's a psychological barrier. That's a belief system that is holding you back. And yeah, then the psychological factor comes in and can have a bearing on your destiny. I grew up in an environment where there was us, meaning the lower middle class people or the middle class people, right? The working class. And then there was rich people. And rich people were like them. We didn't like them. There was a reverse psychology. In other words, there was a reverse snobism. The good people were the working people, and the bad people were the rich people. Can you see how that psychological mindset could have an effect, a psychological effect, on a person's ability to get past any sort of economic limitations? There's a built-in psychological limitation there. There's a built-in, reinforced, socially, economically, politically reinforced, and then they even found things in the scriptures to justify. You know, it is harder for a rich man to, is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. That's a famous quote in the Bible. I'm sure it's probably other places too, in which, you know, people justified staying poor. Right? Like the poor people are going to get to heaven, and I don't know what's going to happen to the rich, right? So all of that was psychologically built into the culture and the environment that I grew up in, okay? And there were many, many things that were available to wealthy people, like making a difference in the world, causing others to prosper, philanthropological work, being a philanthropist, that see, I can't even say it. Certain levels of education and career that were simply not available to us folks because we were the working people. And the greatest, highest level of self-expression one could hope for from that economic level was that maybe you would be a manager, or maybe someday own a small business and have a couple of employees or something like that. But you were never going to make a huge difference in the world. Why? Because we were convinced that we were the good people and that the good people were of a certain economical strata that you didn't go past. That is my answer to your question about how do I see destiny in terms of psychology. There are limiting beliefs, limiting value systems, therefore limiting perceptions. It's like seeing the world through a set of glasses that doesn't allow you to see all the colors. It's like being born with, I don't know, dark brown glasses on, and everybody that you ever met had on brown glasses, and then people talking about colors that you can't see, and you think they're crazy. To you, they sound bizarre because all you could see is brown. And then one day you take off those brown glasses and you see colors that you've never seen before. It can become so uncomfortable that you'd want to put the brown glasses back on for a lot of people. So a lot of people break out of their social stratas. They break out of their inherited belief system, their inherited value system, and it's frightening for them, and they go back to the old way they'd been. The workshops and the work that we do at Embrace Growth is designed to have people in a safe environment break through those barriers, break through those perceived barriers into a whole new way of viewing their life. If you can change your perception, you can change your procedure. If you see the world differently, then you will naturally act differently. A person that has brown glasses on acts differently than a person that sees all of the colors in clear light. A person that's seeing the world with all of its colors and shape acts differently, is motivated in different ways, and has the ability to completely surpass somebody who sees the world in a very limited way and acts accordingly. That's all I'm going to say about that destiny versus fate question. I hope I've answered your question. If you're interested in mastering your destiny, then first find out who you are, tear away, work through, break through, whatever it takes. We design workshops designed to completely break you through to a whole nother way of seeing in your life, and that's why they work. People who see life and see themselves and experience themselves for who they really are highly, highly unlikely. Doesn't mean that you can't, but they're highly unlikely to go back to their old way of being. It's not that interesting anymore. Think about it. If you moved from a little cramped house where you didn't have enough closet space or a place to park your car to a great big new place where you had plenty of room for everything and you were proud to have people come there and visit you and you loved going home and being in your beautiful new place, how likely are you to want to go back to that old neighborhood? Maybe. You could. Nothing's stopping you. But you may not be motivated to do that. You might be motivated to move on forward in life, having seen life in a newer light. So that's the art of what we practice in Embrace Growth, is by expanding people's view. They're very unlikely to go back to their old, limited, constrained, unfulfilling way of life. And they're more likely to continue expanding. You see, there's only so much you can contract before you die. You kill yourself off literally by having internal physiological phenomenon that basically ends your life physically, if not mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I mean, there's a lot of people who are still alive physically, but when you look at them, you look in their eyes, there's nothing going on. They're dead. They just keep waking up every day and eating food and living and breathing, but there's nothing going on. Their soul is gone away. You know who I'm talking about. You've seen people like that. You know people like that. They just kind of didn't die last night, so they woke up this morning, And then there's people who are so alive, so, you wish they would you got to wear sunglasses when you're around them because they're so bright and so shiny and so happy and they're so full of life and making things happen all the time. You kind of want to go be and do what they're doing. So I'm more interested in causing people to expand beyond their limitations, fulfill their destiny, whatever that is. I'm not attached to what their destiny is. Whatever that is, go fulfill your life. And as far as mastering destiny, well, I'm still working on mastering mine, and I hope that you will work on mastering yours. Keep working at it. In mastery, there's no top to the mountain. If you think that there's a mountain top that you're going to get to and now you're a master, forget about it. Mastering is keep climbing. That's mastery. If you ever get to a top place where this is as high as you can go, you're having too small of a vision. You're having too small of a vision. If you ever succeed at what it is that you set out to accomplish, then I propose that maybe your vision was too small and you need to expand your vision and keep moving. That's what keeps you young. That's what keeps you alive. That's what keeps you strong. I'm going to go ahead and take a brief break. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes on Love Talk. I welcome your calls and your questions.
A man of character, responsibility, and resourcefulness. Become that man and join us on the journey towards manhood, finding a better person within. Embrace Growth is offering the Honor, Integrity, and Mastery Workshop in Toronto, Yerevan, and Los Angeles. Sign up today at embracegrowth.com and see the transformation in your life. The Embrace Growth app is finally here. You start by signing in just as you would online, and from there, you'll see all of your account settings. Once in the app, you'll have access to events and all of Embrace Growth's original content. Registering for workshops and seminars is easier than ever, and tools for managing your profile and options are built right in. Schedule private sessions and connect with the global Embrace Growth community. Download it today on the App Store.
Speaking about what works and doesn't work in relationships, and in the earlier part of the show, in case you missed it, we were talking about destiny versus fate. We were talking about the difference between creating your destiny and ultimately mastering your destiny, which is a result of the actions you take. The actions that you take in the world, which produce the results, which produce your destiny, are a result of what is motivating you on the interior. Your motivations are based on either survival, which is you're just trying to stay alive, okay, which is a very low level of existence. It's a very low level of existence. It's just, human animal. Human animal only cares about surviving. Even when they want or need love, they say that I need you or I want this, that, or the other. It's only so that they have a better chance of surviving. It's only so they increase their survival rate. You're either surviving at all points in your life, even right now, right this minute, at all times in your life, you're either living by your survival, in other words, your wants, needs, desires, and what I call your default commitments. We have programs that are in us, just like when you buy a computer, there's certain programs that are in there, right? Now, if you think about it, those programs that are in there are free versions of something they want you to buy later. There's usually an expiration date on those programs, and they want you to get the upgraded version later. They'll get you with that once you become dependent on that. Well, you and I were born with default programming. We have sort of default programmings, things that we're sort of designed to look for and adapt to make sure that we stay alive, to make sure that we survive as an infant into early adulthood so that we could begin to manage our own lives. Most people live their entire life with the default programming. So you're either living your life from your default programming, which means that you have a certain fate. That programming is designed to turn out in a way that is almost certain. It's predictable and almost certain that your life will turn out in a particular fashion and will fit within a certain category of living that I call survival. Meaning you managed to stay alive. Congratulations. You managed to stay alive and have some kids and they stayed alive. Okay, you programmed your genealogy and DNA into future generations. Congratulations. That was your fate. You did it, right? To me, that's survival. That's not living life. Okay? The other way you could possibly live your life, which has more to do with your destiny rather than your fate, is that you have an inner vision that motivates you. You have an inner something, a piece of genius, a spark, something that when you see it, when you hear it, when you feel it, it gives you chills on your automatic nervous system signaling you through feelings and physical sensations. That's how it talks to you. That's how your subconscious spiritual aspect, if you will, speaks. It speaks through, you get goosebumps, you have tears that come to your eyes, your heart feels a deep emotion that you could only call love or respect or honor or cherishing. But, it's hard to find the words for those feelings. And it is possible. And in fact, I believe that this is life. It's not that it's just a possibility. It is all possibility. To live life is to follow that. And I'm not saying some Pollyanna, 60s version of follow your feelings. you know, because your feelings can be inaccurate also. Your feelings could be misinterpreted as well. You know, a lot of people have a hormonal rush that comes from, you know, being sexually attracted to somebody, and they call it love. You know, so it's very easy to misinterpret your feelings, okay? But I am saying that your soul, if you will, your soul, your inner voice, your inner guides speaks to you through certain feelings, body sensations, signs, if you will, omens, things that happen in the world that you go, wow, how did that happen? Wait a minute. What's that about? And you go forward, you're called forward into action to fulfill something. And I say that your destiny calls you. It pulls you forward. One of the things we say is that the pain pushes until the pleasure pulls. You know, pain pushes you away. You push away pain. You know, I used the example earlier, your hand on a hot stove. You know, you push away from that, right? Pleasure, joy, enlightenment, ecstasy calls you. It pulls you forth. You feel attracted to it. You feel drawn, right? How many times have you heard that phrase? I felt drawn or attracted to this person, place, thing, circumstance, career. I felt drawn towards this. You should follow that. You should follow that. You should listen to that. That's a voice that is a voice that will take you sometimes into dangerous places. I didn't say it would be safe or comfortable. I didn't say life would be safe and comfortable. That's your survival wanting to be safe and comfortable. The survival part, the animal part of our mind, the small self wants to be safe and comfortable, wants things to stay the same, wants things to be predictable and normal so that we can be in our comfort zone. You know, there's no growth and development that happens inside your comfort zone. You just keep doing the same thing over and over, and you have what I told you, a predictable, almost certain outcome that I call fate. That's your fate. That's what you run into if you don't live your destiny. You live your fate, you know. And at the end of your life, you look back and you go, well, I guess that was just my fate, you know. And you just lived your life, and congratulations, you made it all the way to the end, whatever that was. And you did whatever you did. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's just that you never lived the possibility that your life could have been, that was calling you all along. It never stops calling you. Your destiny never stops calling you, drawing you forward. It's just you stop listening to it. You tune it out. You decide at some point in your life that, oh, that's not for me. I could have, but I didn't. You know, I could have been great. I could have been really awesome. I could have this or I could have that, but you didn't. You didn't follow it. You didn't listen to it. You didn't do the work. You see, if you follow your destiny, if you follow that inner voice, it will take you places that you never imagined. You will be extremely uncomfortable from time to time, and you will have an enormous sense of aliveness, and that will become your pleasure. That will become your fulfillment. That will become who you are. You will know who you are by the fruits that you produce. You will know who you are by the effect that you've made on the world. You will know your destiny by following that uncomfortable sometimes thread, honoring that, being true to it long enough and disciplined enough until it becomes who you are. Until you look back and you go, I actually have no choice now but to fulfill my destiny because I've cut all the ties with the comfortable old me that used to be, so much so that I hardly recognize myself anymore. And you will become who you designed yourself to be, who you created yourself to be. That is so far different than the default programming that you were born with. You were born with a program that was designed to have you survive, to fit in, to function within a certain society or culture or religious beliefs, and to not go outside of that because it could be dangerous. Some religions, as you very well know, are even lethally enforced. If you don't believe like they believe, then you could get you killed, right? And so they make sure that way of being sticks around, and that people that could oppose that or so forth are eliminated. On the other hand, I'm not talking about religion at all. I'm just saying that that's only one aspect. There's psychological, my caller earlier was asking about the psychological aspect of destiny. There are psychological limitations that if you think outside of can get you killed. That's what got Nostradamus and Socrates and so many other great thinkers who tried to explain things from another point of view. I didn't say their point of view was correct or the right one or the only one. And neither did they. They just said, look, this is what I see, this is what I believe, this is what I understand from thinking for myself and from drawing inspiration from, you know, an interior source, if you will. This is what I have to say about all this. And so that got them killed. That got them killed. Lots of people have gotten killed for saying, believing, and doing and living in such a way that was congruent with, that was in line with their interior vision. So I didn't say that, you know, following your destiny was safe or comfortable, but consider the alternative. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Love Talk, and I'll see you back here again next week. I'm Gregory Morgan. Thanks for watching.
در کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان با دستیابی به اهمیت و ارزش واقعی خود، قدرت زنانگی و آرامش خود را بازیابید. محیطی مناسب و هیجان انگیز برای رشد و شکوفایی عشق، ازدواج و خانواده خلق کنید. زنی شاد باشید، قلب مردان را بشناسید و آنها را درک کنید. کارگاه آموزشی بانوان، اروپا، 20 تا 22 آپریل. برای ثبت نام با تخفیف ویژه پاییزی با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید.
Embrace Growth has a new home online where you can easily register for workshops and events, order from the online store, and be part of the worldwide community of Embrace Growth graduates. You'll be able to see Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan in your favorite seminars. Visit us today at embracegrowth.com. Welcome to the Embrace Growth app. There's a new way to communicate and join in. Create your free account online and sign into the app. Manage your profile on the go and choose between English or Farsi. Register for events and schedule appointments more easily than ever. Stream audio, video, and download books all over Wi-Fi or cellular. Sign up for workshops and seminars right on your phone and access your audio and video library in the palm of your hand. Take your favorite lessons from Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan with you. Download it today on the App Store.
برنامه دنیای عشق با دکتر آزیتا سایان، برنامه‌ای که تمامی سوالهای شما را جواب می‌دهد. ازدواج، عشق، سکس، همجنسگرایی، فرزندان، والدین، خیانت. از یوتیوب لایو استریم، فیسبوک و اینستاگرام لایو. سه‌شنبه ها و پنجشنبه ها 10 شب به وقت ایران و 10:30 صبح به وقت لس آنجلس. تلفن تماس با استودیو 818 532 6655.
Welcome to the all-new EmbraceGrowth.com. You'll have access to all the content you love at the click of a button. Videos of seminars, events, and the ability to sign up for workshops. Direct access to digital downloads right from your mobile devices. Stay in the know and see our latest graduate events. Watch your favorites anytime, anywhere. Visit us today at EmbraceGrowth.com.
A haven for the weary soul, a source of inspiration and community, redesigned to bring you meaningful experiences and unforgettable events. We are a worldwide community of vibrant individuals, displayed in the people who are a part of it, from many nations, backgrounds, and beliefs. Through powerful outreach programs, the struggles of everyday life are confronted and conquered, transforming those who participate into the best versions of themselves. One-on-one sessions are available to keep you headed in the right direction, coupled with the best resources to remind you how to live, whether at home or elsewhere. Programs designed for men, providing the building blocks of maturity, commitment, integrity, and leadership, paving the way for productive and fulfilling manhood. Beyond an understanding of masculine leadership is its application in daily life, and development into something truly unique. Exclusive training for women, encouraging growth and empowerment through an acceptance of their true identities, redefining interactions, and changing the viewpoint through which life is seen. Embracing the woman within and accessing facets of your personality hidden beneath the surface. Showing our youth the value of integrity and reliability by creating an indwelling desire to succeed with honor, basing the future on a solid foundation of ideals that will guide them through life, leading by example, and showing others how to clearly convey their thoughts in a compelling way, creating a culture of mature leaders who can help others achieve self-confidence and their goals. Real people and real lives are changed for the better. With every event, more are touched and come to an understanding of their place in this world and their community. Embrace Growth is run by a passionate team and led by the diligence and inspiration of Dr. Azita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan, who consistently teach life lessons based on what works, rather than the passing fads of the times.
دستهایم را در باغچه می کارم. سبز خواهم شد. میدانم.
تولدی دیگر. نمایشگاه نقاشی‌های مجله حبیبی به یاد فروغ فرخزاد.
گوشواری به دو گوشم می آویزم از 2 گیلاس سرخ همزاد و به ناخنهایم برگ گل کوکب می چسبانم.
شنبه 10 و یکشنبه 11 فوریه 4 تا 8 بعد از ظهر در بلو 7 گالری 3129 پیکو بولوارد در شهر سانتا مونیکا. 818 486 76 19.